Hello everyone, my name is Adeline Cabral and today I'm going to be discussing diversity and multiplicity, particularly as it relates to gender identity. My thesis is how a person conceives of themselves, whether they identify as male, female, a mix of both, or neither, and what they choose to label themselves are two aspects of the same thing. It is possible for a person's gender identification to be identical to or distinct from the sex they were given at birth. Now, the question is, what is multiplicity and diversity? Well, as a concept, multiplicity goes beyond the binary framework of a single identity. It creates some structured ambiguity while exploring flexible, complementary, and multifaceted identities that change with experience, context, and time. In order to have a full grasp of what sexual variety entails, it is essential to be familiar with the following key terms. Sexual practice. It is a specific choice that each person makes when they are sexual active. For example, a person could choose the object of pleasure or desire without thinking about the person it becomes. Sexual preference refers to the feeling of sexual or erotic desire toward women, men, or both, and can be described in different ways. Gender identity. It is the process of building identities based on sexuality. It is a unique and personal process that helps people build their personalities and feel like they belong to the community where they live. There are several types of gender identity. People whose gender identification and gender assigned at birth are compatible with their socially assigned behavior are cisgender. A transgender, it is a human condition in which a person identifies with or adopts characteristics and actions of the opposite gender based on societal and cultural norms. Genderqueer are individuals whose gender identification does not fit within the typical binary gender spectrum. People who feel and think of themselves as opposite gender and choose hormone therapy or surgery to change their physical, biological appearance to match their mental, spiritual, and social reality are called transsexuals. Transvestites are people who show their gender identity by dressing and acting like the other gender, either permanently or for a short time. For example, a drag king and a drag queen. These are persons that dress up like the opposite sex, but they do it exaggerated. Intersex, it is a condition in which a person's body doesn't fit the culturally accepted idea of what a man or woman should look like. Homoerotism is when two people of the same sex act sexually and emotionally with each other in ways that don't necessarily fit into our current ideas of what it means to be gay or straight. Let's now talk about the concept sex. It comes from the Latin sexum, which refers to the division of organic beings into males and females. Accordingly, we characterize this multiplicity into four groups: sex as biological characteristics, as erotic behaviors, as social behaviors, and social regulator. Biological sex is made up of different parts, each of which has its own traits. For example, the number of chromosomes tells the genetic sex. Chromatin sex reveals whether or not the bar body is present. Hormonal sex is the balance between androgens and estrogens. Gonadal sex is when the ovaries or testicles are present. Phenotypic sex outside the body. The nuclei of the hypothalamus controlled brain sex. Asexuality. Asexuality means that you don't find other people sexually attractive or that you have little or no interest or desire for sexual activity. A person who is monosexual only has romantic, emotional, and sexual feelings for people of the same gender. The most well-known types of monosexuality are heterosexuality and homosexuality. Demisexuality only feels sexual attraction to someone after they form a strong emotional bond with them. The occurrence of consistent sexual behavior patterns in a person with a certain sexual orientation. For example, androphilia, it is the sexual attraction to an autonomous male gender, and hynecophilia is an independent female sexual orientation based on their sexual attraction to the opposite gender. Homosexuality, it is the attraction to individuals of the same sex. For example, gay or lesbians. Bisexuality is the attraction to persons regardless of their gender or sexual orientation. Heterosexuality is the attraction to individuals of the opposite sex. People who are emotionally and or sexually attracted to people of more than one sex or gender are polysexual. Pansexuality is characterized by romantic or sexual attraction to any other person, regardless of their sex or gender. Queer is an umbrella word for non-heterosexual and non-cisgender individuals. In the late 19th century, the term queer, which originally meant weird or odd, became derogatory when used to persons with the same sex urges and relationships. Now that we know the different kinds of gender identities and how they can change, the question is how to treat someone who is LGBT. The normal treatment model tried to get everyone the same access, but it doesn't take into account the specific thing that they're needed to make a good clinical history, a good diagnosis, and a good treatment. There are 3 types of health models: the avoidance model, the segregation model, and the assignment model. How should I act around someone who is LGBT? Well, you should make open questions, avoid making valid judgments, and jumping to conclusions based on their appearance about sexual identity, sexual health, behavior, or the reason for their consultation. Respond well when someone's sexual orientation is revealed. Think about equal rights. Consider the person partner in an emergency if the patient needs to go to the hospital or if a decision needs to be made. Find co-workers who have training experience and a sense of how to care for LGBT people. Discrimination. Discrimination is a widespread societal issue. People may be homophobic, rejecting gays, lesbophobic, rejecting lesbian, biphobic, rejecting bisexuals, and transphobic, rejecting transsexuals. The macho culture. It was formed in Texas and subtly critiques and celebrates professional football's macho culture and fan base. In the 1960s, Buchner became interested in the relationship between words and their visual expression and developed a series of thesaurus painting that investigates the cultural connotation of words such as money, die, useless, obscene, and sputter. Football savagery is personally close to war by the time one finished reading the artwork. If football represents the macho aspect of male identity, the gay rights movement will challenge American views of masculinity. On June 28, 1969, police officers visited the Stonewall Inn in New York's Greenwich Village with the intent of closing it down due to the lack of a liquor license. Clients of the inn reacted angrily, tossing garbage cans, stones, beer cans, and bottles at the windows, as well as a rain of cash at the police. Shortly later, the inn caught fire. For days, rioting continued every night until 4 a.m., and a year later, in June 1969, the first gay pride parade was held. Now, let's talk about the coming out. These words generalize the events that leads to the assumption of sexuality other than heterosexual. It is a process rather than a singular moment of sight. What are the sensations pre-coming out? Well, they start feeling of being different or abnormal, feeling of not belonging, feeling of being different before their peers, feeling guilty, feeling withdrawal, and social and affective isolation. The developmental levels. The individual becomes aware of being different from others. The person believes that they may be homosexual and there is no denial. Acceptance of their own identity is search of social spaces. Social activation, homosexual acceptance, and heterosexual denial. These levels are not fully linear and are not fulfilled as a step-by-step. What are the fears during the coming out? Well, they fear of losing the affections of others and being rejected. They fear of having an unsuccessful life and lonely, of being attacked, of being kicked out of a group of the family. They fear about the disappointing certain peoples, etc. Gays still fight for equal rights. Andy Warhol's 1985 book America, a compilation of his Polaroid pictures, was meant to out America 16 years after Stonewall. The film Physic features bodybuilders. In 1980s, the drag portrait presented shown are Liberance, Keith Haring, and Robert Rushmere. Also, Lud Lance appears, and Lud is the first reality star. He was the main character of that show. Loud, born in Eugene, Oregon, he was raised in Santa Barbara. When he was a teenage, he pen pal of Warhol. He moved to New York when William C. Loud was 22. He featured his family in a 12-hour program entitled An American Family. The 7-month program attracted 10 million of viewers. And in 1973, Newsweek said that the program destroyed the British Branch family fantasy when he pushed gay and lesbian Americans to come out. Lynn's openly homosexual lifestyle became a national subject. In 1978, the Mumps performed at CBGB's, and Max, the American male identity, was